Welcome to Yeukai Business Show. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions, helping business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Kechidori.
Thank you. Now, have you ever wondered where in the world are you going to get enough time to focus on your business, given what is going on in the world, the demands from your family, the demands from work? Maybe you're still juggling, doing that side hustle and your job. And you're thinking, is it really possible for you to start making money from your side hustle? Well, if you have wondered, you are in the right place, because my guest today is somebody who is juggling those things today and is getting real success. And you are going to find out how you too can copy what he's doing for your business or for your life today. In this episode, we are going to be talking about working 60 minutes a day and streamlining everything so that you can absolutely focus on your business to the point that you will begin to get real results that is profitable, that will at some point very soon result in you leaving your other maybe employment or other things that may be taking your time away from building your business. So I hope this is going to be helpful. In fact, I know it's going to be helpful because Chris is absolutely wonderful when it comes to delivering, what he's doing. If you've got any questions, as always, reach out in the community group. My team and I will be there to support you. So take your pens out and your notebook and take the notes out. As always, I believe in you and I know you will be able to do great. Let's make it happen. So Chris, thank you so much for joining me here on the show today.
My pleasure, Yeukai. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now, Chris, I know you've been in business. You've been entrepreneur from a very young age, at the age of 13. And you've done quite a few things. In fact, in one of your words, that you dabbled on a few other things until your son came around. That's when you say, look, I've got to make this happen. And you've seen a lot of success ever since. Tell us a bit about yourself so that our audience get to know you.
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, it all started many, many, many years ago when in junior high. So I don't know in the UK what you guys call that. So I was like grade 7. There was a class being offered called Enterprise and Innovation. And the whole premise of the class was to conceptualize a business idea, start it, run it, and see if you could be successful. So as soon as I heard of that opportunity, I took advantage of it. I enrolled in the class and ended up deciding upon starting a concession business. That was something that really wasn't available in the school. There was no cafeteria, there was no vending machines, there was nothing available for any of the students in the entire school to spend money on snacks and treats and whatever it is. So I decided to do that. How I would source my products was using my parents' Costco membership, so like a wholesale grocery store. We'd go there, I'd buy large amounts of pop, chips, candy bars, all that kind of stuff. And I figured out what the cost per unit was. And because my goal was to be as affordable as possible, because obviously I'm servicing an audience of people who don't really have money, all I did was double what the costs were. Yeah. And that was it. So for a can of pop back then, it was 50 cents. For a chocolate bar, it was 50 cents. And then I did deals where it was like buy multiples for this price, or buy bundles of like a can of pop and a chip and a chocolate bar for a bit of a discounted price. And I was open only through lunch hour. So I would eat my lunch really quick, open up, and I would be just flooded with business. It was great. I made a few $100 through over the semester of running the course or the business. And I think I was just hooked by that point because it was awesome to have generated money with something that I started. From there, as I aged, I tried a couple of different things. I actually at one point was trying to build a business of coaching goalkeepers, because I played at a pretty high level here in Canada and did some one-on-one training with some younger kids. Bought a program so that I could kind of follow that program, but take my knowledge and skill set and share it with them, and did that for a little bit. I've I've tried a few different things, but as you mentioned, it was really basically a year ago to the day when my son was born, where I just said, I need to buckle down and really pick something that is going to be like, I need to stick with something long enough such that I can start seeing the results that I'm looking for, which is to be able to step away from my day job and be a full-time business owner, but also grow something that I could potentially hand off to my son at one day if it got to that point, right? Create a legacy. So that's where I started my current business, which is Get Coach 360, which actually started mainly as just a podcast, but has evolved from there. And the system I use to get my guests and whatnot have just led to the efficiency of being able to balance, like you said, the day job, the family responsibilities, the life responsibilities, but still be able to invest. My goal is usually about an hour a day. On average, it works out to probably close to 7 hours for the week. Some days I get to do more. Some days I unfortunately don't get to do much, but about 7 hours a week. And for the first little bit, nothing was really occurring outside of just recording podcast episodes. But with everything I learned there, I was able to translate that into opportunities elsewhere that have earned me revenue and business. And so in a sense, I've been profitable for my first year, which is a big challenge, I think, for a lot of people. Is they think that you have to invest a ton of time to be profitable, whereas I managed to do it with a minimal amount of time by just creating the right systems, developing the right skills, and just keeping my eyes open for opportunities.
Incredible. What I love about your story, Chris, is it gives hope to people who are listening or watching, who may find themselves in a place maybe of desperation, that you can actually create a system that will generate revenue for you by committing a certain amount of hours per week, and continuously doing this in a consistent way, and also get the revenue out of it. Chris, what is interesting about your situation is, even though you knew you had an entrepreneurial, bones in you, so to speak, it wasn't until your reason why became strong that you actually went for it. Talk to us about that for a moment.
One, it is so Simon Sinek has his book, Start With Why. If you talk to enough business coaches, which that's my whole podcast is talking to coaches, that'll be in most cases, they'll say that is one of the number one things that any aspiring entrepreneur needs to figure out is, what's your reason why? And now that I have it, I've gone through that journey and that experience, I have just a much better understanding of the reasons why that is so important. On those days where you don't feel like working, where the emotions are coming into play and you're feeling a little lazy, or whatever the emotional reasons why you don't want to put in the time and the effort and the work, you just have to remind yourself of that why that you have. So for me, I have a whiteboard above my desk where there's a couple of phrases and quotes, and then I have a picture of my son's ultrasound that my wife printed out, and just says, "We appreciate everything you do for our family. Thank you for working so hard." So when I'm sitting at the computer and I'm being a little unproductive because I'm maybe surfing, Facebook or some social media or something else that is not really directly connected to the business, if I look up and I see that, it's just kind of that reminder of, right, get back on track, do the thing you need to do, put in the work. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be a lot, but just just every day try and do some activity that progresses what you're striving for.
Absolutely.
That why is what keeps you grounded, keeps you on track.
Indeed. The stronger the why, the easier the how it becomes. It's an amazing thing. For those who are looking at how do you go about, uncovering your why, there is a very good exercise which you can apply. It's called 7 Levels Deep. And in a very simple, in a shortcut way, figure out why do you want to be in business? And then you ask, why is your why? So you are going to keep going until you get to a 7th level. From there, you would have uncovered the main reason or main driver. It's an important exercise. Again, if you want to know how to do that, you can click the link below and get into the community. One of our team will be able to help you with that. Chris, let's talk about the mindset that you had to immediately adopt when your why became so real to you.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the mindset was really holding myself more accountable. Yes. So one of the guests I had near the beginning of my journey on the podcast has a tool called MindScan. We did this. What came out of that was that it turns out I'm hard on myself. Surprise, surprise. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are hard on themselves, but really what that means is you just have a certain standard, a high standard that you're holding yourself to because you're pushing towards a goal that's important to you, that why.
Yes.
So when I had truly uncovered what it was that I wanted to work towards, then that standard that I was holding myself to became more non-negotiable in a sense. So prior to that, it would be, oh, you know what, I can sleep in a little bit more today, or instead of doing some work, even though it's boring or monotonous work, well, especially when it's boring and monotonous work, I'm going to go watch some videos on YouTube. Or myself, I grew up playing video games, so sometimes I'll be like, hey, you know what, I'll go play a couple games or something like that. But the mindset was, I realized that I need to start eliminating those distractions, or at least significantly minimizing them, because the more of these distractions that I have surrounding me, the more likely I am to not focus on the appropriate activities. I still struggle with it. I've eliminated a lot of the things that were distractions, and I still have things that I look at and I go, I probably should be eliminating this because it's stealing, even if it's like 15 minutes here, 30 minutes there, with the limited amount of time that is available to dedicate towards the business. I need to be really mindful of those 15 and 30-minute chunks of time that I'm perhaps wasting on activities that I could be investing towards the business.
Wow, incredible. Absolutely incredible. Did you use any particular tool to identify what were the time stealers or the goal stealers, so to speak?
Yes. So iPhone, thankfully, has a great built-in feature, the screen time. So I would monitor that. I don't know if everybody gets the automatic notification of it, or if that's something, I think by default it was on. So you get that notification, which I believe is every week, and it says what your total screen time was and whether it was up or down. And you can actually drill into it. And when you click on it, it'll show you the actual applications that you were using on a regular basis. And when I started seeing that the vast majority of my time was being spent on social media platforms in a consumption way, I said, well, I need to eliminate that. And what I started noticing was that the times in which I was doing that were around the same time. So what I did was I used the built-in features and just put time restrictions on them. And I said, I will only allow myself up to an hour every day for all of the social media platforms, so that you can pool them all together. So if I didn't want to not allow myself to go on social media, because eventually that's going to become a source of traffic for content creation and whatnot. So I wanted to kind of study the people that I want to model. So I gave myself at least an hour every day to flip through all the different social channels. I made sure to follow the right people. So I unfollowed all the people that were basically not adding value or were not people I wanted to model after. And so throughout the day, if I've got a coffee break or if I just need to stretch out and just give myself a little break, I'll jump onto one of the many social platforms that I'm subscribed to and just kind of see, like, what are people doing? What are people talking about? What are they posting about? What kind of content are they creating? And that just kind of gives me ideas as far as, like, oh, you know what? It'd be fun to create a interview, because I usually take a lot of ideas from social media for podcast guests, and I go, it'd be fun to interview a LinkedIn expert, because I don't really know what's the best way to leverage LinkedIn. So I've been following these people and I kind of see what they're doing, but I'd love to ask them more questions. Yeah. So I reach out to them and I just ask, would you like to be a guest on the podcast? Because usually they're not just a channel expert, so LinkedIn expert or TikTok expert or Instagram expert. They're usually business coaches that specialize in that platform, because that's where they've just excelled in their business. Absolutely. They use it as a big source of traffic. So I reach out to them, I bring them onto the podcast, and then I get to pick their brains and ask them great questions for my value to learn. But that's the whole premise of my podcast is I'm learning, and so is the audience, because I'm hopefully asking the same questions they're already thinking.
Totally. Yes. I love the idea of monitoring your time, where your time is going. We have actually created what we call time log for our customers, our clients, and they have said it has helped them enormously. So the way the time log works is you have this very simple spreadsheet. Now, again, if you want to succeed, you have to follow through. It's not something that people will jump for joy, say, I'm doing this, but once you apply it, you will see tremendous results. So you just take out your spreadsheet and write what you're doing from the time you start work, from or the time you are up, right till the time you finish your day. You do that for 2 weeks. You begin to see patterns as to, okay, I do this, I do this, I do this, and then you eliminate those things that are not adding value to you, because if they are not adding value to you, they are literally destroying your future, and they're destroying your reasons why, and you end up not achieving your goal, which is not what you want. Let's talk about the routine that you had to come up with, that sort of or habits that you had to come up with that fosters that progressive approach towards your goal.
Right. So habits are, I think, there's another thing. Habits are an incredibly powerful tool when utilized appropriately. There's good habits, there's bad habits. Bad habits will literally destroy you. Good habits will allow you to succeed. So the habits that I went to start forming were, and this one wasn't even necessarily by choice, but prior to my son being born, I was developing the habit of waking up early, usually around 5 o'clock, right? And I know that's such a common, almost to the point of cliche piece of advice, but there's a lot of benefit behind it, especially once you start, is that you've got like this psychological win, in a sense, is the way I feel about it. Now, whether this is like there's science behind it or not, but I feel like there's just this big psychological win of I'm awake before most other people are. Like, so that's victory number one kind of thing. And I think the whole journey of entrepreneurship is stacking wins, right?
Absolutely.
So if right out of the gates you're waking up early, now it doesn't have to be 4 a.m. It doesn't even have to be 5 a.m. But just try and wake up earlier than what most people are doing, like what the average person is doing, and you've got victory number one out of the day. It doesn't matter that somebody else is waking up even earlier than you, but as long as you're doing it more, as long as you're kind of outperforming the average person, you're already starting to set yourself apart. The other big habits for me were reading, at a minimum 15 minutes a day. I also incorporated meditation for 10 minutes a day, and exercising a little bit a day. And so that's shifted a lot for me since I've had a child. Anybody who's gone through that experience knows that your life changes quite a bit as far as routines, right? You've got a newborn who needs to feed like every 3 to 5 hours, and that includes overnight. So you're waking, one of you, either your spouse or yourself, are waking up. So as that occurred, I needed to be adaptable to the new situation. So as much as I loved getting up right at 5 o'clock, reading, meditating, exercising, journaling, doing all these habits that I had in my first hour of being awake, that shifted a little bit when my son was born, because now he's not, I have to build my routines around his schedule. And over the last year, that's been a big learning lesson for me, is to just learn to be adaptable. So whether that, I guess the habit that I developed was just the habit of not being so attached to my routines, if that makes sense. I needed to like habitually remind myself, don't get emotionally worked up over something that you don't really have control over.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That was a big one for me this past year.
Amazing. And of course, by applying this simple principle that enabled you to literally streamline your business to working only 60 minutes a day, which is producing results. Do you think anyone can do what you have done, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things so my wife and I are currently helping my in-laws with home renos. And the reason I'm sharing this is, one of the things that drives me crazy when it comes to home renos is when I'm asked to do a certain task without the improper tool.
Right.
It takes longer, it's more frustrating. Odds are you're going to get not the result you're looking for. I feel like entrepreneurship is fairly similar. There are a lot of tools out there, so there's a lot of options. But where it comes down to is picking the right tools for the right job for yourself, right? And I think it will be a little bit different for everybody else, but there are certain kinds of tools that almost every entrepreneur needs, right? So similar to like if you're doing home renos, everybody's probably going to need some screwdrivers, a hammer, a saw. You know what I mean? Like, it's, to me, entrepreneurship is similar. As far as the brand of screwdriver, hammer, and saw, that doesn't really matter. But there are just certain kinds of tools, basically like functions, that entrepreneurs need. So as long as you've got the right tools in place, and more importantly, the right systems that, again, work for you, yes, I absolutely think anybody could build a profitable business with 60 minutes a day.
Wow, 60 minutes a day. I love the fact of 60 minutes a day, because it means you're focused and you've got other areas of your life in order. My experience has been, when I'm clear on what I want to do, what I want to achieve, or the outcome that I want to achieve, I can always find a way. But when I'm not clear, I tend to, dabble and, try this, try that, try that. Once you are absolutely clear, you can arrange everything else and have that 60 minutes very focused, very concentrated, and to do that. Let's talk about what do you do during those 60 minutes?
So that'll vary depending on what I feel is the highest priority for my tasks. So that could be reaching out to a lot of my time, to be honest, now that I think of it, is spent networking and connecting with people. A big part of business in general are the relationships that you are building with others. So the platforms that I use primarily for that are LinkedIn is really the core. And then I use another one called Shaper, SHAPR I think it's .com, might be .net. Anyways, so Shaper is really like it's like Tinder, but for networking. So you swipe left or right, depending on whether you want to potentially connect with this person or not. If they swipe right on you as well, you match up, a conversation gets started. So I use that one quite a bit to just connect with people who are clearly, we're interested in connecting with each other. So once we do a little bit of dialogue back and forth there, if things are going well and there's some good synergy, I move that conversation over to LinkedIn. LinkedIn's really the core social platform that I've been using. I do something similar on LinkedIn, whereas I've got a tool that will kind of go out and search for profiles based on keywords that I'm looking for. So aspiring entrepreneurs, business coaches, health coaches, life coaches basically in general. So the reason the coaches is for potential guests for the podcast, aspiring entrepreneurs, because that's the audience. That's the audience I'm building this for and want to serve. So I want to connect with them, build relationships with them, perhaps earn their listenership, or learn from them what are the things that you're struggling with that maybe I can build an episode around, or I can build some content around, or I can build an offer around, or whatever it is. Understand your audience, right? Very, very important. But yeah, a lot of my time, if I don't have actual tasks connected to the business or the podcast, or whether that's writing copy, updating the website, all those like technical type stuff, I'm usually building relationships.
Amazing. What I am hearing straight from there is a concept of identifying your needle movers. What is it that moves your business further, faster, and reach has more impact. And for you, it is relationships. Now, if you are a business owner and you know your business, sit down, identify what really is a needle mover in your business, and then focus on that. Everything else you can delegate it to either a virtual assistant or to somebody who wants to help you move your business. That's how you streamline your business, make it very simple, and just do those things that helps you move forward. Chris, we are coming toward the end of our time here today. But for those who wants to be on the Get Coached podcast or to connect with you, how can they go about doing that?
Best place to go would be Get Coached. There's a specific section. If you go to the contact section, and then there's a process there to be able to apply to potentially be a guest on the podcast. If you're an aspiring entrepreneur, then each and every episode of the podcast, similar to your goal, is there's an actionable takeaway audience to be able to apply and level up is kind of the way I say it. Like, we want to help you level up wherever you need it most.
Indeed. Great work there. Chris, if you were to reinvent yourself, knowing what you know right now, which you have amassed over the last few months and talking to over 50 business owners, what would you do differently so that you reinvent yourself faster and without a lot of being drawn back by a lot of obstacles? Maybe you can share 2 or 3 things that you would do right now.
That is a really, really good question. And I think so. For me, the areas that I feel that I still struggle, and if I had a magic wand and I could give myself like any superpower, it'd be the superpower of hyper focus, being able to identify with precision the right activities that need to be done so that I could focus on those. And then if there was an ability that I would ask for of all abilities, is the ability to just be a better student, better learner. Meta learning is a good term as well. I read a ton of books. I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I'm always inputting the best stuff that I can possibly find. But you had mentioned this earlier. Myself, a lot of people, they struggle with taking action. And I think it's because you're not sure what to prioritize, which is why I mentioned that. And then which means you're not sure what to focus on, which is why I mentioned that. So if I could have all three of those things really dialed in, and for myself personally level up, yeah, I think anybody who can master those three skills, you're going to be unstoppable in whatever it is you're pursuing.
Wow, amazing. Amazing, absolutely amazing. I've got one question I have to ask you, because I get asked this a lot. In the process of reinventing yourself, you still live among people who views you as the old Chris, or sees you in the way that you probably try to move away from. How do you navigate that without destroying relationships?
That is such a fantastic question. I actually asked the exact same question to one of my guests on the podcast. So what I did, whether this is the right decision or not, is I have actually distanced myself from those types of relationships where, regardless of what I've done as far as recent activities and what I've demonstrated as far as like these big changes I've made in myself to make myself a better version, to just go down this different path. If they kept trying to connect me and almost like pull me back to like that old version, I would actually just distance myself. There's still people I'm friends with and connected with, and we still stay in contact from time to time. But I've just limited the amount of time that I am around them, because they're clearly not the right kind of association that is going to help me on the journey that I have, right? Hence why association is so important. So what I ended up doing is just literally changing my association, distancing myself from those that still perceive me as the old Chris and not this new version. And I surrounded myself with new people who really only know this version of Chris, or are of that mindset that there's this constant development and evolution of an individual. And so they respect that and they get it, that you're not going to be the same person 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. In fact, you shouldn't be. You should be constantly looking to grow and evolve yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The only constant thing in this world is change.
That's right.
What about those people that you cannot distance yourself away from? For example, your wife. How do you get them to jump on board, so to speak, on your journey to your desired outcome or goal?
That is a also very, very good question, and I think something that a lot of people struggle with. And so what my wife and I have done is we actually have a regular meeting weekly where we sit down and we discuss things. And this is the opportunity for either one of us to share what's on our heart, as far as what's been perhaps bothersome to each of us, like that the other one may be doing, just bringing it to their attention. Or it's not, and it's an opportunity where each of us can share where we want to go, right? So when I'm talking about, where I want to take this business, why am I doing this, I get to share that during that conversation, during that meeting. And inputs are super important. So as people who provide high value on personal development, we're reading books, we're listening to podcasts, we're watching YouTube videos, whatever it is. We're making sure we've got proper inputs. But if your spouse is not getting those same inputs, you can help them with that by sharing the lessons learned. Hey, I listened to this great podcast and they were talking about this, and you provide that input to them, that positive input, and just that's the whole power of association. If you're around somebody long enough, you will become more like them because of the input. So if you share those lessons learned and what you are learning along your journey in a friendly way, in a non, like, you're not trying to like teach them or be their coach or anything. You're just sharing. I listened to this podcast. I loved it. I love this lesson. This is why I loved it. And you're just sharing your excitement about it. They're going to eventually understand more of where you're coming from and who you are and what you're becoming.
Wonderful.
That's what's worked for us. So if it works for everybody else, I hope so. But again, I think it's just communication is really the most important thing. And whatever that looks like for each couple or person may be different, but for us, it's a weekly meeting.
Incredible. Success leaves clue. It is working for you and you're getting a lot of good results from it. And if you are listening, it's worth applying it and see it for yourself, whether it is working for you. Final thoughts. Somebody is listening and they're looking at, they want to reinvent themselves. They want to start on a new journey. Any final thoughts? Talk to them straight. They will love you for it.
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would suggest everybody consider, because it's very simple to start nowadays, is to start a podcast. Start a podcast. Talk to people that you find interesting. If you are an aspiring entrepreneur, talk to other entrepreneurs. If your business that you're looking to build is in a very niche market, or you have a passion about a very niche type subject, just start a podcast and talk to people in that community, because there's so many skills and lessons learned from doing it that you will personally grow, and you'll connect with so many great people that are like-minded, which is what, especially right now with what we're going through with COVID and the whole pandemic thing, is I feel like there's a lot of people that are feeling isolated and loneliness because of the fact that we can't really interact with each other as much as we used to. But podcasts are such a fantastic way to doing that. And like I said, very simple to start, very low cost to start. And it's a fun experience to learn while connecting with people.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Maybe we could have you come back on the show and talk about podcasting, what it has done for you, the whole system, and what people can do. It would be amazing, to have you come back and talk about that.
Yeah, that would be my pleasure.
Amazing. Well, there you have it, guys. If you find yourself in a place where you doubt whether you can do it as well, Chris is balancing working full-time, building his business, looking after his gorgeous wife and amazing son, and still, making a lot of providing a lot of value to other people. And you too can do exactly the same thing. If you've got any questions, you can hook up with Chris. Just go to Get Coached podcast. In fact, can we have your website again, Chris?
It is getcoached360.com.
Excellent. Just go there and reach out to Chris for support, or just head over to our community. I'm often there. If I'm not, my team is there to support you. Listen, don't do this alone. Entrepreneurship is more fun when you are doing it with other people. That's why we have the group there for you. Well, with that said, I look forward to spending another quality time with you. And I remember, as always, I believe in your abilities. I believe in your goals. Go get them. Talk to you very soon, and goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.